In today's video, I've returned to North York Moors National Park in North Yorkshire with the aim of replicating a shot which I actually took a couple of years ago of the tree on the screen at the moment, surrounded by a bed of purple flowering heather. However, as you can see from the screen, the heather is actually looking nowhere near as good as it did when I took that shot, which has left me a little bit stumped, enough to make me wonder what I could actually do to take a shot here, because the heather is definitely not looking anywhere near. In fact, I'm not even convinced it's actually going to flower to the extent that it did before. Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and I have to say I'm not really sure what's happening with the heather here. I expected the heather to be ahead a little bit, so I photographed this tree before about the 10th, 11th of August. We're now the 3rd of August, so I thought the heather was coming in a little bit quicker. Now, looking at the heather around here, there's really two possibilities. It's flowered and I've missed it, which I don't think is the case, or it's just really not looking very good. And I think that's more likely. And all I'm wondering is if perhaps at some point they've actually done a burn through, which they do occasionally to burn off the land, let it rejuvenate as such, because when you burn off all the heather, it will grow back better. And I'm wondering if this has been burnt off fairly recently, because the heather looks very stunted around me. It's very, very, very dry. We haven't had much rain, as has been a recurring pattern, I think, of all these videos this year. Me telling you how little rain we've had, but we've had very little rain for this time of year. And everything's very dry, and to be honest, the chances of the heather flowering in that direction, I would say, are highly remote. So as I say, I was a bit stumped about what I could actually do as soon as I came here and found there was no heather, because I'd pretty much, my mindset was to come and photograph the North York Moors at that classic time of year with nice flowering purple heather, and my gut instincts were to return to this gorgeous tree for probably the final shot. But I came here first of all just to see how the heather was doing, because the last thing I wanted to do was to come back later and to find there was no heather, like so. So it's left me in a little bit of a quandary. But luckily, I do have a new toy, which I threw in my bag right at the last minute, to the point of that I'd actually drove up the road and I decided to go back home and pick it up just in case. And I'm going to show you what that is. Now, I'm very aware that it doesn't look the most exciting camera, and to be honest, if it was the normal off-the-shelf version of the camera, it'd frankly be quite boring, an entry-level camera without an EVF, 16 megapixel sensor. It's a Fujifilm X-A20, a nice little camera, but nothing exciting at all in any shape or form. However, this camera has been converted to 720nm infrared. Now, if you've watched this channel in the past, you will know I'm a great fan of infrared photography. In particular, I love photographing stone circles in infrared. However, a couple of years ago, I did sort of feel that I'd reached the final point of using infrared, and whilst I've dabbled a little bit on and off, it's not something I do that much. I think it's simply because I've photographed infrared so much in the past that I felt like I was getting to the end of creating any new photos with it, I suppose. So I wasn't really in the market for an infrared camera. However, I saw this body only on auction on eBay. It was coupled with a Samyang 12mm lens, which I don't particularly want, but it was coupled with that. And I managed to buy it for £160, which I think is an absolute steal. I'll probably sell the Samyang lens, and that means I've got an infrared body, probably for about £100, which really you can't go wrong with. It's just, for that price, it's small enough just to keep in your bag. It's cheap enough just to keep in your bag, just in case you need the opportunity to photograph something a little bit different, almost to photograph something you can't see, to photograph infrared light. I've got a nice little shot going on here. The subject is the tree. I think it was pretty obvious that was going to be the subject. But what's making it is the clouds behind, and I'm taking a variety of shots until I get that nice cloud formations behind it to complement it. Now, what is infrared light? Now, essentially, in the colour spectrum, infrared is above red. So what it is, it's light that we cannot see with our physical eyes. And the only way we can see it is something like a converted camera or you can get sort of infrared binoculars and things like that. So what this is doing is recording light that we can't see. So hence the term invisible light, because it is light that we cannot see with our own physical eyes. Now this camera shooting at 720 nm will still record a little bit of visible light. So that means what I could do is I could take this shot and I could actually process it as a colour shot, but it wouldn't look anything like you would expect this landscape to look like. It would look quite psychedelic, for want of a better word. But I love infrared for black and white. When I first started shooting infrared photography, it was using black and white infrared film. So for me, infrared is almost always going to be black and white shots. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. And the beauty of infrared, it will turn the blue sky that you see behind me and obviously behind the tree, it will turn that to a lovely jet black colour. Well, it will just turn to a lovely jet black. The foliage will radiate lots of infrared light. Now, it doesn't emit infrared light as such. All it's doing is bouncing back the infrared light from the sky, and it will bounce it back lovely. So that will give a lovely sort of ghostly white appearance to all the foliage in the sun, jet black skies. And all I need to do is have a nice formation of clouds behind to almost frame the shot. Because I am finding that if you've got the lighter clouds, there wasn't enough contrast between the tree and the cloud structure behind. So as I say, I've walked around this tree for a good an hour, trying to find the angle I like, and because of the shape of the tree, it obviously takes a bashing from the wind, so it's sort of all grown in that direction. So I've had to come around, try and find the perfect angle to add a little bit of a three-dimensional look to it. And really I'm just hanging on to try and get some nice clouds behind it. And when that finally happens, here's the shot. It's definitely looking like a plan B day. I've done a good circular drive, probably covered about 20 miles to be honest, just driving around, seeing what I could find. The heather's nowhere near, so I can't decide if I've just totally missed it or if it just hasn't happened. I find it hard to believe that it just hasn't happened, so all I can think is perhaps it was really early this year. I'm not sure, I might have to do a bit of research on that. Brush up on my heather skills, but I have found a subject for infrared, which is this cross here. Cross stone, I'm not sure exactly what it is. It should be quite a nice, interesting shot. I'm thinking probably this direction, looking out, some blue sky, which of course will be black. There are some clouds. It should be quite nice. It's a very obvious infrared subject, and I think that's perhaps my only worry with it. Because I think with infrared, it is really easy to just milk the infrared look. And what I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to be a bit more original with my compositions. But this is plan B. So of course, get the little XA20 out. I think this video is proving that if you're driving somewhere, just throw extra gear in your car or your van just in case, just so you have options for plan B. Because honestly, if I had this little camera in the van on hand, I think I'd have been returning home today with very little shots because there hasn't been much grabbing my attention. There's no colour. I've actually just been having a closer look at the heather, and it does actually look like it's starting to flower. So I'm obviously just early, and I'll be honest, I was working on the principle that I was in Northumberland last week and the heather was looking good. If you watched the video, which was last week's video for you guys, when I was doing the big walk, the heather was looking nice there. So I suppose I was just expecting it to be the same here, but it's obviously just running on normal schedule as such. Anyway, the shot, I'm not fully convinced. Basically, I am using the heather in the foreground, the stone in the back. I've gone for portrait. What's grabbing my eye is the textures of the heather trunks as such. Here, where they're exposed, so the roots are exposed, you can see the trunks, branches, stems. Anyway, you can see that, and then you've got the cross behind. It's an okay shot. I am going to focus bracket. So I am just going to, first of all, put self-timer on. This camera annoyingly doesn't remember your self-timer settings, which is really frustrating. So I've put it on 2 seconds. I'm shooting at f8 and I'm focusing right on the front. And now I'm just going to basically take it straight up. Focus on the cross. It's okay. It's okay, I think. It's not a it's quite a nice infrared shot. The sky is good behind. Yeah, is it my best work? Probably not. But you guys may disagree, so here's the shot. So I've got the classic photographer's dilemma. I found a nice tree again, yet again surrounded by non-flowering heather. And there's a tree in the distance. Now the problem is that I actually really think the shot I took earlier was far stronger than the shot I'm going to get now, at least in infrared. So what I'm wondering, and if I swing you around so you can have a look and see where I'm walking towards, there's a tree just there, and there's actually one just behind it. And I'm actually wondering if I can get myself positioned in such a way that I can perhaps make a panoramic with the GFX 100 RF, probably going for a colour shot, simply because there is a nice little bit of colour going on in the landscape. If I swing you around, you know, there's some nice red tones. It's definitely not what I was looking for, but I think today's video has all been about plan Bs, hasn't it? And this could work quite nicely. Now, I've actually photographed these trees before, and I was quite pleased with the shot. And I think this is the problem I'm really having today. A lot of these things I've photographed before, and I feel like I've photographed them better. Even though I did like the first infrared shot, the cross shot, I don't know at the moment. It might be okay. This one, again, I think it is actually just going to be a better subject if there was some heather flowering, I suppose. But it is quite interesting. I'll swing you back around so we can see where we're heading. And as you can see, we have got the heather in patches, but definitely not enough to make the shot as such. I think if we gave this a few weeks, this would be really nice. So honestly, I'm not entirely sure if this shot is going to work or not. It may be that I even try a longer lens and get in lower. I'm going to have a bit of a play around, try and find a nice angle, I think. And as ever, I'll have a chat with you when I've actually found a shot. So I've been walking around the tree with the GFX 100 RF, and I think the tree itself is it's a really nice tree. So I think I'm keen just to take pretty much a straight landscape shot of it, really. Full sensor. There's some gorgeous tones going on. Yeah, the light is beautiful. And I think that's what's really drawing me to this, is the light's so nice that it would probably look quite striking in infrared. But you know what? I want the colour in this shot. There's a bit of cloud behind, so it's a classic race against time. Which is quite nice to have this camera out, actually. Wish my tripod was a bit bigger. I've actually got a bigger tripod in the car. Which would actually be really useful for this shot. It's not the end of the world. As you can see, the composition's really simple. It's just the tree. In the landscape, really, it is a portrait of the tree. I think the angle's quite nice from around here. Perhaps a bit more interesting from the other side, but of course the bonus of this side is I've actually got light. I'm going to have a look just out of interest of how it's actually looking with the infrared camera. And you know what? I can't decide which one I prefer. I wasn't really expecting that. You know what? I think I'm actually preferring infrared. I think for the colour shot, the sky doesn't have enough drama. It's not really that exciting a shot. It's pleasant, but it's not exciting. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this shot again. I'm going to put the shot up on the screen for you guys to look at. And while you're looking at it, I'm going to stick this bad boy on and have a look again. I'm hoping you can see that. Basically, again, tree smack bang in the middle, but look at the way the blue sky now becomes jet black. It just adds a bit of drama to the shot, and that's what it was lacking as a colour image. That's why it was lacking with visible light, basically. It is definitely the infrared that is making this shot. F13, 2-second self timer on. This should be relatively straightforward. Famous last words. And guys, I think that's it for this video. I think today has proved that you always need to have a plan B for photography. My plan A was to be coming out, shooting heather. That's all I wanted to photograph, was heather all day. With the odd tree scattered here and there and other things, rolling hills, heather, you know. I had all these ideas, but the reality is, it didn't come to fruition. But what I did have is had extra equipment with me, just in case that didn't happen. Now, I'm not suggesting you always have to go and carry an infrared body around, just in case you get there and the conditions aren't right. But what I could have done, if I hadn't got infrared bodies, I could have even pulled out a macro lens and started doing some macro shots, or trying to do details, doing something a bit different. But for me, it has been shooting infrared today, has been something a little bit different. I've really enjoyed photographing invisible light as such. I do think it's actually saved my shoot in some ways. Sometimes I get my mindset that I'm shooting landscapes, and I find it very hard to come out and then suddenly start shooting macro, and I'm not sure why that is. I think it's just sometimes preconceived ideas, which is not a good thing. But by using the infrared camera, which I had to try out anyway, I've definitely got 1 or 2 photos I think I'm really pleased with. Not sure about the cross one. You watch, it'll end up being my favourite. But yeah, always have a plan B. That's all I can say. And on that note, guys, if you have enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up. Maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And I'll see you again soon for another one. Thanks for watching.